No one warns you when you're slowly being replaced by silence. It just happens. The messages stop. The effort becomes one-sided. And one day you realize the truth didn't hurt. What hurt was how long it took you to accept it. No one is too busy. That sentence sounds simple, almost harmless, until you realize how much of your life it explains. I didn't want to believe it at first. I told myself people were overwhelmed, distracted, trying their best. I filled the silence with excuses so I wouldn't have to face the truth. But patterns don't lie. Time always goes where priorities live. And when someone keeps choosing later, what they're really saying is, not important enough. That realization didn't make me angry. It made me quiet. I stopped explaining. I stopped chasing clarity from people who benefited from my confusion. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. I started hearing myself again. Welcome to Stoic Silence Wisdom. This channel isn't about blaming others. It's about learning how disappointment sharpens awareness and how silence can become a form of strength when words no longer work. If this opening already feels uncomfortable, stay with me. And before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel. It helps keep this space alive, and it gives me the motivation to keep creating honest work like this for you. That silence did something else too. It forced me to look inward because without noise, there was nowhere left to hide. For a long time, I thought motivation was the missing piece. I kept waiting to feel ready, energized, inspired. Some days I was, most days I wasn't, and my progress rose and fell with my emotions. That's when I realized how fragile motivation really is. It depends on mood. Discipline doesn't. Discipline showed up when I didn't feel like showing up. Not loudly, not heroically, just consistently. It wasn't about punishing myself. It was about respecting the future version of me more than the comfort of the present one. I started to see how easy choices quietly shape a weak mind and how hard choices slowly build a steady one. My mind stopped being a place where impulses argued all day. It became something I trained, like a muscle. Nothing about this felt dramatic, but it felt real. And for the first time, progress wasn't dependent on how I felt. It depended on what I chose. Once I began living with discipline instead of emotion, I started noticing something uncomfortable about the way I trusted people. I used to think trust meant openness, that if I shared more, explained more, gave more access, relationships would deepen. What actually happened was the opposite. The more I revealed, the more I blurred my own boundaries. And over time, that confusion always came back as disappointment. I learned that trust isn't built through words. It's revealed through time. Time exposes consistency. Time exposes intention. You don't need confrontation for that. You just need patience and attention. Some people showed up only when it was convenient. Others disappeared the moment I stopped overextending. That wasn't betrayal. That was information. I stopped expecting people to value what they never had to work for. I stopped confusing familiarity with loyalty. And I realized that emotional maturity isn't about closing your heart. It's about deciding who actually deserves access to it. Boundaries didn't make my life colder. They made it clearer. I explained less. I observed more. And with fewer expectations placed on others, I finally stopped being surprised by who they turned out to be. With clearer boundaries in place, I stopped wasting energy on who people were and started facing what life itself was asking from me. Growth doesn't arrive gently. It usually enters through discomfort. At first, it feels like resistance, like everything is falling apart instead of coming together. I had moments where effort brought no visible reward, where progress felt invisible, and doubt spoke louder than results. But pain isn't random, it's instructional. What hurt the most was realizing that avoiding hardship had only delayed my development. Every time I chose the easy path, I stayed the same. Every time I stayed with the difficult moment, without drama, without escape, I changed. Strength isn't built during the highs. It's built when nothing seems to be working, and you continue anyway, quietly, patiently. I learned that quitting doesn't speed anything up. Rushing doesn't either. Some transformations need time to settle, like clarity forming after chaos. If your direction feels uncertain right now, it doesn't mean you're failing. It often means you're being reshaped. And that process is never comfortable, but it's rarely wasted. When I look back at everything I've learned, one pattern stands out clearly. A quieter life creates a stronger mind, not because it avoids problems, but because it stops feeding them unnecessary attention. When you stop reacting to everything, you gain the space to choose what actually deserves your energy. A small circle didn't make me lonely. It made me focused. A private life didn't make me distant. It made me grounded. And a calmer mind didn't make me passive. It made my decisions sharper. I stopped measuring my worth through approval and started measuring it through consistency. What I did when no one was watching became more important than what people thought. The deeper lesson is simple but demanding. Growth doesn't come from noise, comparison, or constant validation. It comes from alignment between what you say matters and how you spend your time. When you protect your time, your health, and your attention, you protect your future. Apply this by choosing one small change. Speak less about your plans, invest more in your habits, and give your energy only where it's respected. Progress doesn't need an audience to be real. Now I'm curious, what is one thing in your life you feel ready to simplify? Share your thought in the comments so others can learn from your perspective. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Silence Wisdom. Your support helps keep this space honest, thoughtful, and growing.